10,000 babies were born without arms. Grünenthal knew and kept selling the drug. Between 1957 and 1961, a small pharmaceutical company in West Germany marketed a sedative called thalidomide under the trade name Contergan. They called it the safest sleeping pill ever created, so gentle it could be given to pregnant women and nursing mothers. The advertising promised restful sleep without risk. What the company concealed was far darker. Internal documents would later reveal that Grünenthal had received reports of severe nerve damage in patients as early as 1959. They had warnings about birth defects months before they pulled the drug from the market. They chose profit over truth, and an entire generation paid the price. But the full scope of what Grünenthal knew, and when they knew it, wouldn't emerge for another 50 years. Chemie Grünenthal was founded in 1930s in the rubble of post-war Germany. From the beginning, the company carried shadows. Among its early employees were chemists who had worked for IG Farben, the industrial conglomerate that manufactured Zyklon B for Nazi concentration camps. Heinrich Muchter, who would become Grünenthal's head of research, had conducted typhus experiments during the war. Otto Ambros, an IG Farben board member convicted at Nuremberg for mass murder and slavery, served as a consultant to the company. These men brought expertise but also a certain moral flexibility. Scientific ethics, the Nuremberg Code's requirements for informed consent and rigorous safety testing, these were inconveniences to be navigated, not principles to be honored. In 1954, Muchter's team synthesized a new compound, thalidomide. Initial animal testing was cursory at best. The company found what it wanted to find, a sedative that seemed impossible to overdose on. In an era when barbiturate poisoning killed thousands annually, this appeared revolutionary. Grünenthal rushed toward market. Contergan launched in West Germany in October 1957. Within months, it became one of the best-selling drugs in the country. Grünenthal's marketing was aggressive and pervasive. Sales representatives told doctors it was safer than aspirin. Advertisements showed sleeping children, peaceful mothers. The company licensed the drug to distributors across Europe, Canada, Australia, and beyond. By 1960, thalidomide was sold under dozens of trade names in 46 countries. Pregnant women took it for morning sickness. It worked beautifully for that purpose, suppressing nausea and allowing restful sleep. Doctors prescribed it freely, trusting Grünenthal's safety claims. In Britain, Distillers Company sold it as Distaval. In Canada, it was called Kevadon. The drug saturated the market for expectant mothers. What no one outside Grünenthal knew was that the warning signs had already appeared, and the company was actively working to suppress them. In late 1958, a German physician named Ralph Voss wrote to Grünenthal reporting that patients taking Contergan were developing peripheral neuritis, painful nerve damage in their hands and feet. The company dismissed his concerns. When more reports arrived through 1959, Grünenthal responded not with investigation, but with denial. Internal memos reveal executives strategizing how to minimize the damage. They instructed sales representatives to emphasize the drug's safety record and avoid discussing side effects. By 1960, the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. Neurologists across Germany documented case after case of thalidomide-induced nerve damage. Some patients lost the ability to walk. Grünenthal's response was to fight making the drug prescription only, fearing it would hurt sales. Then came reports of a different kind. Obstetricians began noticing a strange pattern: babies born with severely shortened or absent limbs, a condition called phocomelia. Historically rare, these cases were suddenly clustering. In Hamburg, pediatrician Widukind Lenz began investigating. By November 1961, he had identified the common factor. Every affected mother had taken thalidomide during pregnancy. Lenz contacted Grünenthal directly on November 15, 1961. He informed them of his findings and urged immediate action. The company's response was not contrition, but calculation. Internal documents show executives debating how to handle the crisis, how to protect the company's reputation and market position. They did not immediately recall the drug. It took until November 27th, 12 days after Lenz's warning for Grünenthal to withdraw Contergan from the German market. In those 12 days, women continued taking the drug. Babies continued being damaged. Even after the withdrawal, the cover-up continued. Grünenthal insisted publicly that no causal link had been proven. They fought lawsuits for years, deploying legal teams to delay and obstruct. Company lawyers worked to seal damaging documents. Executives destroyed evidence. The full paper trail of what Grünenthal knew and when remained hidden. In the United States, the drug never gained approval. FDA medical officer Frances Kelsey had repeatedly rejected Grünenthal's American partner, Richardson Merrill, demanding more safety data. Her skepticism saved American children from the worst of the epidemic. But her success highlighted what might have been possible elsewhere, had regulators asked harder questions. Worldwide, between 10,000 and 20,000 babies were born with thalidomide-related birth defects. The numbers remain imprecise because many affected pregnancies ended in miscarriage or stillbirth. Many surviving infants died within their first year. Those who lived faced lifetimes of disability. The deformities were distinctive and devastating. Phocomelia left children with flipper-like appendages where arms or legs should have been. Some had no limbs at all. Others suffered internal damage to hearts, kidneys, and digestive systems. The drug's effects depended entirely on when during pregnancy the mother took it. A single pill at the wrong moment could alter a child's body forever. These were not statistics. They were people, individuals who would spend their lives adapting to a world not built for their bodies, fighting for education and employment and dignity. Many became advocates, demanding accountability from the company that had harmed them. Criminal proceedings against Grünenthal executives began in 1968. The trial lasted nearly 3 years, one of the longest in German legal history. Prosecutors argued that the company had shown reckless disregard for human safety. Defense attorneys countered that the science of teratogenicity, the study of how substances cause birth defects, had been poorly understood in the 1950s. In 1970, the trial ended without convictions. The court accepted a settlement in which Grünenthal paid into a compensation fund while admitting no wrongdoing. The executives walked free. The most damning documents remained sealed. German privacy laws and corporate legal maneuvering kept Grünenthal's internal archives closed for decades. Victims and researchers suspected there was more, proof of earlier knowledge, evidence of deliberate suppression, but could not access it. It was not until 2012, more than 50 years after the disaster, that journalists and researchers finally gained access to portions of Grünenthal's files. What they found confirmed the worst suspicions. The company had received warnings about birth defects before withdrawing the drug. They had known. They had chosen silence. In 2012, Grünenthal's CEO Harold Stock issued the company's first public apology to thalidomide survivors. He expressed regret for the suffering caused and for the decades of silence that followed. Many survivors rejected the apology as insufficient and decades too late. The thalidomide tragedy transformed pharmaceutical regulation worldwide. Drug safety testing became far more rigorous. The FDA gained new powers. The European Union established stricter approval processes. Pregnant women became recognized as a special population requiring particular caution. But the deeper lesson is harder to encode in regulation. Chemie Grünenthal was not an aberration. It was a company that prioritized profit over people, that chose concealment over transparency, that employed men whose moral compasses had been shattered long before they synthesized their miracle pill. The systems meant to protect the public failed not because they lacked rules, but because they lacked vigilance. The children of thalidomide are elderly now, those who survived. They carry in their bodies the permanent record of a pharmaceutical company's greed and a regulatory system's failures. Their existence is testimony that corporations, left unwatched, will sometimes choose the unthinkable, and that the truth, however long it takes, eventually surfaces from sealed archives and corporate vaults, demanding to be heard.